Well guys, now that the i9 14900K is out, is the best time ever to build an i9 13900K build, and in this case we bought an i9 13900KF for just 400 bucks. Extremely cheap, and they're pretty easy to find. You can get one for sure if you want. And this whole build is actually coming in at right under the 2000 euros mark, and every single one of you can build it for this price easily if you follow a few of the guidelines that I'm gonna tell you. So let's go over the components, what we chose and what the target of the build is. Well, this build is made for 4K 120Hz gaming all the way up to 4K 144Hz gaming depending on the game, or you can play at 1080p 360Hz easily on competitive titles, but we will see that in the benchmarks. Now, the first controversial choice to make the build be this cheap is gonna be the motherboard. So what we have here today is a Chinese brand of motherboard. The brand is actually called Jginyue. Now maybe I'm butchering the name, but I will put the link in the description down below, and it's their Z790M Snowdream. It's an extended micro ATX board with all the latest features, with one specific difference. It's a Z790, it supports 13th gen out of the box, but it supports DDR4. Now DDR5 is not as expensive as it used to be, but DDR4 is still cheaper. And there is actually a little trick that we did here today. So the RAM we are using is the Asgard Valkyrie DDR4 3600 MHz CL14. Now the key is exactly in that CL, because 14 is extremely low as a CL. Now with DDR5 you double the speed, but you generally double the latency. The most common DDR5 kits are CL40. It means they have a latency of 40. Well, by getting just 14 in latency, this is gonna allow us to get extremely smooth FPS and extremely low input lag with the i9 13900K. So that's key. Now, staying on the cheap side, we got the newest Enermax Liquid Fusion ADV in white. Now this is basically the new edition of the Enermax cooler that we also used in the previous LC power build. Go check that one out if you haven't, with the RTX 3090, a bit more on budget. Now this one is completely white, and I think it's gonna look stunning because the whole build is actually gonna be white, all of it, except for the GPU maybe. But we'll talk about what kind of 4080 I bought later, okay? So another choice I made, which I recommend you guys do if you're getting an RTX 4000 series card, is I bought an FSP Hydro G 1000 watt 80 plus gold. Now this power supply is ATX 3.0 and it has a PCIe Gen 5 cables included, so you don't have to use the ugly adapter that daisy chains a couple of 8 pins on the GPU. You can just natively use that. So we picked that one up, and you can buy one for just a shave over 100 bucks. Now the star of the show is gonna be the Gamdias Nezo P1 white case. It's an aquarium case. Aquarium cases are the most popular theme in the past year probably, and this one is actually gonna be extremely good value for money. Again, it's hard to find an aquarium case for this cheap with this kind of high quality. This is on the highest end, just a direct competitor of the Height Y60 and Y70, the newest one. So again, this one, everything will be linked down below in case you want to go check out the prices in your region. But let's now talk about the SSD, but it's pretty simple, just a standard 2 TB 7000 megabytes per second NVMe SSD. You can also buy a Gen 5 drive if you want, like the Crucial T700 we tried in the previous build high end. However, this one is more on the budget side, and today's build is with budget in mind for as much as we can on the high end. Now the GPU, you probably have never seen this graphics card before. It's because it's generally strictly for the Asian market, and it's from a brand called Gallardo, like the Lamborghini, and it's Maximus 10 model in full green, but it actually has LEDs as well, okay? Now, since they banned the export of RTX 4090s, the RTX 4090 has gone up in price dramatically, so it has been increasingly difficult to buy an RTX 4090 for a good price, even used. So the best value for money right now, I wouldn't have believed I would have said it a year ago, but it's gonna be the RTX 4080. It's the best card to get, and it's what you should get for the high end. Don't pay the extra money for the 4090. With the price increase, it's not worth it, okay? And now it has 6 GB of VRAM, and it's just extremely good, and this model especially, not spoiling too much, but it's supposed to be extremely good. So I say, with all this said, we get into building and take a look at the unboxing and everything and get mounting. Okay, so let's start from the motherboard where we're gonna put everything, and it's this Snowdream board that will be down in the description. Now let's see if it is actually decent. Let's go open it up. As you can see, we find the SATA cables, some of these to protect the socket, a warranty card, which is pretty nice, and then under here we have the actual motherboard. and it's honestly looking really nice. I mean, at least in my opinion, it definitely reminds you of the Asus ROG Strix boards. Looks pretty much the same. So again, very weird barebone combo because we were using this extremely low latency DDR4 coupled with a good NVMe and a 13th Gen i9. So let's just populate this motherboard with all this hardware. Okay, so with the whole motherboard combo ready, and it's looking stunning by the way, it's time to slap the cooler on top of it. Paste application time. It's time to open up the case. Okay, so it definitely reminds me of the Height Y60. Obviously, it's in my main build, it's on the channel, I've had the Y40 as well. But I think it's an aquarium case with its own unique style because the front in fully curved glass, I've never seen it. And the back is fully mesh in a very unique way as well. It seems extremely interesting, it supports vertical mount as well. The expandability slot seems to be a ton. So I say we fill this one up with fans. Now the unique thing about this case is you can also flip it and basically set it on its back, so on this panel. As you can see, you can just put the stands here and you can just place it that way. So it will have a larger footprint on your desk but not be very high. Super cool. As you're probably noticing, the case comes with 0 fans, which is obviously a point to consider in such an expensive case, but thankfully we reached out to Jginyue and they sent their newest cosmic white fans. Now these are cheap and they look stunning, so we're gonna be using those ones. So guys, Jginyue is now making wireless fans like the Lian Li ones, but better looking and cheaper, and they even have RGB on the side. So what happens is you just plug them all in like this, and then you just power a single one on top with their controller, and you're good to go. Let me show you how they are when working. Now this acts as cable management as well. Really, the build quality is absolutely insane for the price.
Perfect.
Okay, so with the PC basically finished, the only thing missing is the power supply, and we're using this FSP Hydro, again 80 plus gold, ATX 3.0, PCIe Gen 5. So I say we just open it up, plug it in and mount it. Everybody fears their GPU going up into flames. Not me. You just bend it like I bend every other cables, guys. Don't care. Death below. Now you tell me if this is not like super cool. Well guys, here we are with the PC fully finished, but as you can see, it's just rebooting in a cycle because things did not quite go as planned, and I think it's nice to show mistakes as well. Well, it wasn't really my mistake, to be honest, but it's nice to show the bad sides of things as well. So what happened is we had a ton of problems with the motherboard. Now I want to say, just outright, the motherboard itself is actually better than I was expecting, because it's a bit crazy to put an i9 13900KF with all its cores, all its threads on a 150 euros motherboard, right? Because that's what this Z790's No Dream from Jginyue costs. However, I actually plugged it in and I was running it, and everything was running smoothly and perfectly, to be honest. The only issue is the BIOS was not updated. It was an old BIOS and it was presented to you as the latest one, but it actually wasn't. So what I had to do is I spent like 2 days trying to force flash the BIOS via AFU Win, AFU DOS, like we did in our cross flashing the BIOS motherboard video, but nothing was working. So in the end I had to like use a VPN, connect to a Chinese version of their website, and like I actually found the latest BIOS, and they give you basically a pre-made package to put in a USB drive to flash from a bootable USB. So I did that, and no, it didn't break the PC, everything was actually working. However, there was simply no way to have the RAM work. Basically the XMP was not selecting. Even if you put the XMP, you would have to manually select the voltage, and still it wasn't working quite right. So that was the actual issue, and the turbo boosting behavior wasn't quite working. So the reason why we had to do all of this is originally we booted the PC, everything was working fine, temperature was great, but the CPU was not turbo boosting, so it was running at like 3.4 GHz all the time instead of like 5.8, kind of crazy. So that's the issue, mainly. So with that said, today we won't have any benchmarking done, really. I have done some, so I will tell you the results, but I won't have anything to show you, aside from how pretty the build came, and we will discuss the components as well, and how you can build one for yourself. So let's get straight into it. So honestly, if you're building a high-end PC like this one, with like a ton of RGB, RTX 4080, etc., I don't recommend you buy this motherboard. I think to the average user, you should just buy an ASRock Asus Gigabyte board. Just buy that, spend a bit more, you'll be fine, no issue. Undervolt the CPU as I've shown, and you'll be good. But this motherboard is for someone who really wants to spend the time to tweak it. And if you want to do that, especially if you have maybe a slightly lower end CPU, then it's gonna be perfectly fine, especially if you buy cheap RAM. The issue today is we got this Valkyrie RAM, which is extremely high performance RAM. And since it's CL14, it actually gives you lower latency than DDR5s in games. So for competitive gaming, it's actually gonna be better than certain DDR5 kits. But being such high binned Samsung memory, because it's Samsung chips under it, it's not a good pair with this match, if it makes sense. So I say the motherboard, not for everybody. The rest of the combo, honestly, for everybody. Let's go over what I liked about it. Basically everything. The case, Gamdia's Nezo P1 White is absolutely amazing. You can have it flipped as well, and it has plenty of expandability. You can just rotate the I/O to vertical mount your GPU, and they actually give you standoffs for your PCIe extension directly with the case. Now in this case, I got a white PCIe extension as well, and it was just working perfectly fine. I loved it. And I think those Asia Horse Cosmic fans, which are wireless fans, basically you just plug them one into another and they stack one on top of each other with a single cable. They look stunning, they're easy to work with, and you could just plug them in 2 seconds and they fit the build perfectly, being all white with the frame white and having RGB on the sides as well. I think they complemented nicely the Enermax all-in-one, all-in-white, their 360 ADV model, and again I can definitely recommend this one as well for the price. I think it looks 10 times better than the black version that we used in our 1000 euros budget build that we have on the channel. Go check that one out, by the way. We have a ton of content, and subscribe to the channel, please. I lost a week on this PC. But anyways, the strange manly Gallardo RTX 4080. Now I don't have benchmarks for you guys, but you will have to trust my word because I tested it, and it works exactly basically as a Strix GPU, so it's perfectly viable. If you can get one for cheap, get it. And honestly, even though it's green, I kind of like it. I like the RGB, I like the fact that it has an actual button you can click to turn on and off the LEDs, so that's kind of unique as well. So that I liked. The FSP Hydro G power supply, extremely good power supply, low ripple, will allow you to undervolt and overclock your stuff better because of the stability. We have the native 12 volt high power cable, so we don't risk burning out our graphic cards. You know, just overall, I love this build from start to finish, except from the motherboard. But we will get that one fixed as well, and I will maybe post a little update video. So again, stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, and I can definitely 100% recommend all of the components in today's build, and I think they came out looking stunning, aside from the motherboard. Maybe double check that, okay? So guys, see you in the next one, and hope you liked it, even though it was a weird video. Bye.